And good morning from the CNET New York Studios. It's time for the 359 podcast, episode 236. In the house today, we've got Roger Cheng and Alfred Ng. 3, 2, 1, let's jam.
Yeah. We've got a great show for you. We're going to be talking about Android O versus iOS 11 now that we've got a look at both of them. Obviously, the full versions don't come out until the fall, but our own Jessica Dulcourt's already kind of made an early judgment as to which is better. We'll talk about the upcoming UK elections tomorrow and the impact of fake news, and really just fake news in general. And yes, as referenced by Brian, the intro, we will be talking about Cowboy Bebop getting a live-action TV show treatment. I'm not sure what to think about that, really.
I don't want to think about it.
We'll come back and cover it in detail.
Yes, if you have any questions about these topics, as well as our CNET magazine cover, Tom Holland, the new Spider-Man, feel free to leave them in the comment section. Brian will get to them. Pick out the best, and we'll get to them in 3 minutes and 59 seconds.
From 3, 2...
Welcome to the 359. I'm Roger Cheng.
I'm Alfred Ng.
So yes, we're still going to talk about Apple today. While we focused a lot on hardware yesterday, the event's really focused on software. So with both Apple and Google showing off their latest mobile OS, we wanted to pit Android O against iOS 11. It turns out our mobile expert, Jessica Dulcourt, actually ruled that Android O comes out on top. It really comes down to the improvements in artificial intelligence, AI, and just sort of how Google Assistant is evolving relative to Siri. And I mean, there are a lot of other kind of bells and whistles that she talked about. But right now, if you're an Android fan, you've got to be feeling pretty good.
Yeah, I think when you're comparing a lot of different aspects, you're kind of taking a look at, comparing apples and, Android oranges.
Yes.
Here, I'm pretty sure that's what the O stands for. But,
Oreos.
I mean, on the things that you can compare them with, like VR and AR, I think Android O comes out on top with this one. I mean,
Definitely.
With Apple, they were showing off a lot of the AR features where it's like, look at the shadow on that and look at how you can place it on the table.
Look at this digital coffee cup.
Which is cool, but like
doesn't really help me.
With Android O, like the AR features were actually useful.
Right.
Where, you could find out like what the menu is like at this bar that you're at, or where you can find out, your friend's Wi-Fi password just by using your camera on like a barcode and things like that.
I mean, Jessica notes, with Android O, you get picture-in-picture with Google Maps, which is super useful. You get more enhanced cut and paste. With iOS 11, you can pay with your friends using iMessage and Apple Pay. You can control different audio on multiple speakers in your house. All these things are nice to have, but it just seems like Google's improvements are a little bit better, like a little bit more useful, right?
I mean, I think with all these bells and whistles, like Assistant versus Siri, their AR, VR features, maps, and being able to pay your friends through text. I think those are all cool features, and you can stack them up against each other all day long. But I think at the end of the day, it's going to come down to like speed, and I think Apple, iOS might have Android beat on that.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So look, we don't really know what this is going to look like until the fall, until we see this stuff working in iPhone 8 and Pixel 2. Makes that wait really, really hard though. All right, next up, our own Katie Collins had a story on the impact of fake news on tomorrow's UK general election. Obviously, it's been a busy year for elections, really going back to our own back in 2016. And fake news has played a role in all of that. I mean, what do you think? Is it still a big problem?
I don't think the UK will be hit as hard as the US was with like fake news. I think they've kind of learned from like the US's mistakes. Facebook for sure has learned from its mistakes and even put out like a large series of ads out on it, and I think they're much more aware of it now, and I think there's much less like confirmation bias when it comes to this kind of news in the UK. And I think the more interesting thing is that the bot army that they had like spreading this fake news, a research firm found out about like 11% of the fake news spreading in the UK was from bots.
Yeah,
that's like 1 in 10 person is a robot like spreading like fake news, which is
although
incredible.
She did note that it escalated as the election went on. Anyways, as 3 huge Cowboy Bebop fans, we could not talk about the live show in development. Is this something we're excited or worried about?
I think I'm glad that it's actually a show and not a movie, because Cowboy Bebop is so nuanced as a show where it has like different like vignettes, and it like captures like, Spike's like story, but it doesn't do it it doesn't do it like in a linear like way. It does it like episode 1, then episode like 13, then like again.
And there are a lot of great standalone episodes that really kind of show off the characters. I mean, this is not, you could sort of sum it up as this sort of sci-fi Western, but it's so much more than that.
Yeah.
Right? So, yes, I agree that in terms of that the lack of nuance that a movie would have, I'm really glad it's getting the TV show treatment. All right, lastly, we wanted to throw out a tease for the latest issue of CNET Magazine. On newsstands now. It features Tom Holland, the new Spider-Man, so definitely check it out. The interview is also online. But for all these stories, check us out on CNET. I'm Roger Cheng.
I'm Alfred Ng.
Thanks for listening.
I don't know how I feel about Cowboy Bebop.
A little worried. I mean, you know what? It's sort of how I felt when I heard about Death Note getting the live-action treatment. Like, I'm like,
But Death Note already got the live-action treatment. Death Note
It
got
wasn't-
it in Japan.
It wasn't that great.
I never watched the Japanese
I
version.
watched it.
Okay.
It was okay. Actually, it was my first introduction to Death Note. Was watching the
Oh.
movie. I'm like, what is this weird thing? And then I went back and watched.
But the
anime.
Netflix version looks really weird.
I actually read something interesting. What was the director's name? Kaijime? The creator?
Of Death Note or
No,
Cowboy
of Cowboy Bebop.
I forget his name.
I'm brain farting on the name, but there was something I was just kind of skimming an article the other day about how he actually liked the American dub better.
yes, I do too.
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
rare, like that's kind of sacrilege in anime town, but
Yep.
I mean,
he
there's-
thought that the characters were just really well portrayed. And a good actor's a good actor.
Yeah, I'm also saying like there's certain animes where like the dub is just better. Like Dragon Ball Z in its original like language is terrible.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
Yeah,
really?
fair enough.
I don't know. Maybe because I was used to the original language version.
I like this.
But like Steve Blum is the best Spike. Like there's
Oh yeah,
That's-
with
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
sounds
he's
now.
really great. Yeah.
I like this comment from Lost Legacy in the YouTube chat. We already had a Cowboy Bebop live action show. It was called Firefly.
Yeah.
maybe this one will get canceled too.
Oh,
Don't do that.
Man, I just remember that first time watching Cowboy Bebop. That was one of my original binge efforts.
By the way,
That was like a cathartic moment.
the director is Shinichiro Watanabe,
Watanabe.
Yes.
and screenwriter is Keiko Nobumoto.
Listen, one of my big stipulations about the revival of the show is as long as Yoko Kanno is back
Yes.
with
Yes,
the seatbelts.
the music.
If you don't got the music, you don't got
Yeah,
the
I was
show.
gonna-
I don't care if they re-record. I don't care if they remix. You need that music.
I was gonna wonder what they were gonna do about the soundtrack for this because that soundtrack is like amazing.
Just use the same soundtrack.
I mean, that's the
Don't
thing with,
try
like-
to improve upon it.
Honestly, I would have preferred they did a live action version of like Samurai Champloo than Cowboy Bebop.
Oh,
so that's,
Samurai
Which
Champloo.
is sort of like the spiritual successor.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's like-
Absolutely.
Yeah.
for sure.
In show and soundtrack
yeah.
still.
And I feel like that show would
Rest
have
in
worked.
peace, Nujabes.
That show would have worked a lot better as a live action than Cowboy Bebop did. I just feel like Cowboy
It
Bebop
probably
is
also
way
would be a
too-
lot cheaper to produce. Like the whole, I feel like
Yeah,
the
you don't need that
sci-fi
much
setting,
CGI, yeah.
the CGI and all that, that's gonna be like it's gonna be a pricey show,
Well,
or
I
it's
mean-
gonna either be a pricey show or it's gonna look really cheap.
Look at what we're coming out with the Star Trek, though. Not to, merit our
Toot our own horn, our parents' horn.
too much, but it's like so far a lot of the imagery looks pretty sharp. I
Yeah.
mean, it's getting easier to do good-looking sci-fi on.
But you know what? That's a
Still
show that they've
expensive,
definitely
though. TV
committed
budget.
a lot of money to, right?
Sure,
Cowboy Bebop
is a little more niche. It's a little
it's
more
a little
cult.
more niche. There's definitely a loyal following there, but it's not as wide as Star Trek. And in terms of the money that it'll be able to command, like that would worry me. Like cheap CGI could just quickly destroy a show, no matter how well it's written.
You're very right.
I'm very interested in what their casting decisions are going to be. I think
Yeah.
a long time ago there was like a fake poster out for like a live action Cowboy
Keanu
Bebop
Reeves.
with like Keanu Reeves
Ah,
as Spike.
No,
I could see it.
no.
He could do the voice.
I don't know. I feel like he doesn't have the charisma.
Fair.
He's Keanu Reeves. He like plays Keanu Reeves in every movie.
Listen, I'm
but
cautiously
he also
optimistic.
did, like-
We thought that we didn't need the movie
Yeah.
from years ago, and that ended up being pretty okay because it was from the same people all over again. That's the most important part.
Right.
But it was like you kind of retelling a story, but they kind of filled in some gaps.
What does Steve Blum look like? Does he look like Spike at all? I know his
he's
voice.
got a beard.
Okay, because I remember there was talk about like if there was ever like a Metal Gear Solid like movie,
Oh,
like
that
David
he would-
Hayter would have to be like Solid Snake or something.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Which would never happen, by the way. That means
Yes.
they would have a Hollywood star
Yeah.
in his place for sure.
Yeah.
Steve Blum maybe though. I don't know. He might not be that big of a star if I don't even know what he looks like. So.
Yeah,
Well, he's a famous voice
Yes,
actor.
he's huge.
Yeah.
But
but that may not be his skill set, right? Like he
Yeah.
might be great at voice acting, but
Yeah.
who are
I
they
don't
going to
know.
get to do like Faye or Jet or Ein? Who are they going to get to play? Yeah, the dog.
Probably a corgi.
yeah.
I was thinking Ed, but
No,
I
this is
also
what Steve Blum looks like, by the way.
Yeah, he does not
out
look
in
like
the,
Spike.
Out in the chat, go ahead and submit your fan casting for this Cowboy
Yeah.
Bebop. We were curious to hear. I really have no thoughts on this at all because I can't not picture the animated characters as voiced by the actors. I can't put
Yeah.
a face to that yet.
Can we just have Adam Sandler and his homies? Like it's like Adam
David
Sandler,
Spade.
Steve Buscemi is
Get out.
It'll be a Netflix special. So
Steve Buscemi would be a pretty good Ed.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
yeah.
We have.
Do we have? By the way, do we have questions on Android and iOS? Because I imagine we do. We should probably take some.
Kevin
There's a lot
James's
of
jet.
there's a lot of oh god. There's a lot of chattering amongst themselves, but let's go ahead and jump back into iOS versus Android. And
Yeah.
I was kind of interested to see Jessica's conclusion on all that. Could you maybe elaborate on some of her points?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a matter of. It seems like Google's just doing more in the places that we care about, and Android Assistant. I mean, Google Assistant. I think was a prime example. Like Alfred brought it up with AR, right? You know, Apple's kind of showing off this like gimmicky. Check out this cool fake coffee cup on the table. Whereas Google's like, we're gonna let you point your phone at a restaurant and get Yelp reviews right on the screen.
That seemed to be the theme with Android O that stuck out to me the most. That like made me think it beat out iOS 11, where it's all the things that iOS 11 is offering, but like we're making it useful. Like we're putting it in a way that like you can.
Exactly.
These are like legit use cases that you can have it for, as opposed to this is really cool and we got it. Like it's just. They're all useful and they're all like relevant.
And you know, you talked about AR a lot. Obviously, with VR, Google's way ahead with Daydream, with the platform. I mean, Apple hasn't even talked about virtual reality.
Yeah,
I mean,
they did with the Star Wars thing, didn't they?
That was that? I guess that was virtual reality.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they talked about
which looked really cool.
No, but that was what they said was that the hardware would be able to support VR experiences. They're not really doing a VR thing themselves right now, right? Whereas Google is like taking ownership of that category and saying, "Hey, we've got a whole platform for you to develop VR on." So that it just seems like Google is taking more of the initiative with some of these newer areas.
And then I'm not sure how much of like the user interface that like Android O really went into, but I know with like iOS 11 that was like a big point for them, that like menu bar that they had.
Oh, the control center.
Yes, which I'm like, that's been a thing on like Android for like years now. So
well, the fact is, what they did was basically eliminate one window, so you wouldn't swipe left and right, which is annoying for me, right? Like having to like pull up the command center and then swipe left and right to control music.
But my point is that they should that's existed on
Android, and also that shouldn't have been an issue with Apple in the first place. They should have had it shouldn't have been this swipe left, swipe right.
The same thing when they were like, oh, check it out, like the App Store now has a game section. I'm like, yo, like Android has also had that for years.
Google Play Store has had that for a while,
it's just one of those things where it's like, yo, Android has had like all these things for like a while now. And
I mean, to be fair, Android it's been going on for years. Android or Google has stolen from iOS. Apple has stolen from Android. They kind of like steal each other's features until they're kind of close to parity. But it just seems like in terms of the feature tech stuff, definitely Google seems to be ahead of the curve here.
Let's go ahead and jump back into the chat real quick. 1GWX says is really anxious about AR, but is really apprehensive about VR. For one, we'd like you to elaborate on that. What are you favoring for AR? How do you find it to be, in your words, useful tech, as opposed to VR, which I'm assuming you see as just kind of like a gaming gimmick, which I don't think you're alone in that. What do you guys take away from the AR VR battle going on right now?
I mean, I feel the same way. I look at it the same way that I look at like Blu-ray DVD versus, like HD DVD. Blu-ray DVD sounds weird. I'm sorry, that's wrong. But
no, I mean, I don't think it's a format war. I think it's definitely they're different.
I know that
I hate the term use case, but there are different uses for this, right? Like AR, I think has more of a place, in the work environment, in your personal life, because it kind of blends in with reality, blends in with your real world. VR is more. It's definitely entertainment and gaming, right? You have to sit there. You have to commit time. Commit hardware, go into this VR
But the
world.
thing is that like AR is already like, you don't need an extra like device for that. Like it's already on your phone.
Yes.
And who's to say that you can't do like AR with like gaming and entertaining either? I mean, we saw it like
no, you can't. But what I'm saying is that there are more plations where AR is applicable as opposed to VR. Like you're not gonna do VR in the workplace.
Yes.
But you could see AR both at home or in the office.
I know a lot of companies have like kind of bet like a lot on VR too, with like Facebook thinking that's where people are gonna be like going with like chat and stuff, but. I don't really see it, honestly. I feel like more people are going to be doing like AR stuff.
That's definitely one of the problems with VR in general. Is I know Facebook wants to make it a social thing, but it's not. It's very isolating. You are kind of by yourself. You're experiencing something really cool, but for most of the experiences that are out there, you're by yourself.
Yeah. To clarify, when I said the AR VR battle, I didn't mean the AR VR were battling technologies against each other. That there's competing companies trying to get the top seat in AR and at the same time VR.
It seems like more companies are focused on AR at this point. Like
Yeah.
it's shifted, right? VR was like this hot topic a year or two ago.
Well, VR is kind of old too. It's been that
is
sci-fi
kinda funny
thing
to
that
say,
kind of came
like-
to be, and
Right.
AR is still the newer concept.
Yes,
really.
it's definitely more developed. It's a little bit fresher, so
Yeah.
you see a lot more companies kind of jumping into that. But it's just interesting that Apple has talked a lot about AR, but not VR at all.
Yeah, right. So Lost Legacy in the chat says, does the Google Assistant on iOS even out the AI AR debate? It's an interesting thought.
Even out?
Yeah.
Oh,
So just having a competing assistant on iOS as opposed to
well, I would. Yes and no. I mean, I think it's great that Google wants to get Google Assistant onto iOS, but it's not going to be as proactive. It's the default assistant for your phone is still going to be your
Yeah, it's
iPhone
gonna
is
be
still
really
Siri.
annoying.
Like
Right.
you can't necessarily. I don't know if you'll have like a wake word for
Yeah.
OK Google.
It's the same way that like if you want to use Chrome on your iPhone, it's still like a pain in the ass to get to it, where you have to like you can't open up like links that people send to you in like iMessage in like Chrome or
Can't
anything.
reset those
by
defaults.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's,
Or
but
like
if you
Maps.
could, then it
Same
would
with
definitely be
Maps.
in the debate.
Yeah. All right. Before we wrap it up for the day, let's talk about. We had to kind of graze over it. Let's talk about Spoderman real quick. Spitterman.
Yeah.
So Alfred, you take issue with Mr. Tom Holland.
I
and why
don't
is-
take issue with him. I just like to do it and see like.
Well,
How it ends
tell
up.
our viewers what
So-
you want to do.
So I found out in the interview that we did with him that Tom Holland actually has a history in like dancing. He's his favorite like dancer is Michael Jackson. He really appreciates like how he came up with his own style.
I think he
And-
got his break on Billy Elliot.
Yes, he did.
Right?
Yep.
And he actually, in his audition for the role, he did like multiple backflips, like to kind of show these acrobatic, like Spider-Man
It's
is.
like hi, backflip.
Yep.
I'm Tom, backflip.
So I saw the video. I saw him doing like a few moves, and I thought I could definitely beat Tom Holland in a dance battle because I break dance regularly. And I was watching what he was doing, and I'm like, I can do all of that, but better. So maybe I could be Spider-Man. I don't know how into filming they are, how deep in. Like maybe they could just CGI me over him. But I feel like that's how Hollywood works. When you beat somebody in a dance battle, you take their role.
Yeah, that's exactly how
I'm
it
pretty
works.
sure that's what happened with him.
It's like
and,
the Highlander model, but with dancing. Yes.
So, if any Tom Holland family members or friends are watching this, please send this his way and let
I'm
him
sure
know.
they are.
I'd love to have a dance battle with Tom Holland, maybe take his role.
We could do it here.
No, that being said, he's going to be the best Spider-Man we've ever seen.
Yeah,
you have
he's-
not seen me be Spider-Man.
Fair point, but you know what? I really liked what I saw in Civil War. Like he was
Yeah.
Oh,
kind
right,
of
he was in
excellent.
Civil War.
He was pretty
Maybe
excellent.
it's too late now.
Sorry, dude.
Give us a with great power.
Comes what?
You're fired.
Yes. Perfect Spider-Man. There we go.
All right. That's probably a good spot to end it for the day before we get too long-winded and off topic. We had fun.
Yeah, this
That
was
was
a
fun.
fun one, even though we really barely addressed the main topic.
I mean, everybody's got their own opinion in their own mind. There's
Right.
only so much we can really talk about.
Exactly.
If you really want the better details, check out Jessica's article.
Yep.
She can definitely flesh it out better than we did.
Yeah, she kind of breaks it down by features too. It's not just straight like Android's better. Like she'll break down different categories, and in some ways iOS is better. But for the most part, overall, her conclusion was Android right now looks to be the better operating system.
Fair enough. All right, let's wrap it up.
All right. If you liked anything you saw or heard here, check us out on CNET. Our podcast is also available on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, SoundCloud, FeedBurner, and Google Play Music. See you all tomorrow.
Later, everybody.
Bye.
See you, Space Cowboy.